Welcome back to our small world of fishing, and thanks for watching, especially to our subscribers. This film is a roundup of our 2020 Zander Fly fishing season on Grafham Water. As we head out from the dock of the fishing lodge, it's a fine morning in early July, on a day that would prove to be eventful for my boat partner, Kevin Lyles. More of that to come later, but up till this point, our season had already proved to be anything but ordinary. Of course, 2020 has been an extremely challenging year for everyone. Grafham remained closed until early June. This meant we were playing catch up with the season that had started without us. And social distancing measures meant we had to fish from separate boats. But we did record some good results early on. On our first day out in June, we headed for the shallows to see if the Zander was still there. My second cast of the season was greeted by a huge take followed by a surging run, and then another. It looked like it might be the perfect start to the season, but as the battle progressed and Kev sped over to join my boat, I had begun to suspect that this was no Zander. And yes, it was a pretty decent pike, weighing in at just over 18 pounds. Still, it was a very welcome start, if not quite what we were looking for, and for me it was a personal best pike on the fly. But after a good hunt round, it became clear that we had missed the golden weeks of fly fishing in shallow water. It was already too warm, the weed line was fully grown, and we would have to head out to the 20-foot depths. Kev was first to the Zander, catching fish throughout the day, most of them from around the North Tower. The largest of these weighed about 8 pounds, all caught on a large yellow and white baitfish pattern. Fished on an airflow DI7 line with a steady retrieve. I struggled most of the day, but it was a huge relief just to get out on the water after the lockdown. So I'd like to take this moment to say a massive thank you to the staff at Grafham, who did a brilliant job amid difficult circumstances. Like ourselves, many of the anglers we talked to were relieved to be able to get out and fish and take a much needed break from all the doom and gloom.
Do you guys use fish finders?
Yeah, not extensively, but yes.
The fishing on the next couple of trips got even tougher, though we could at least fish from the same boat, which raised our spirits greatly.
Before it starts raining.
Usually we have a plan, based on wind direction and sometimes on reports from other anglers, but both proved to be unpredictable in June.
Sample that for your language later.
Yeah, I hope so.
Where are we going then? Down?
Sailing club seat. I don't mind, Chris. I really am at a loss to. I think you're right, and then maybe G-Boy and along that side.
Deep side and deep.
Yeah. Crookie said the North Tower was desolate, so. But he said there weren't even any trout there.
No, it's too warm.
Yeah.
It's too warm when we were there 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Even the trout anglers were struggling. Warm and overcast mornings often gave way to sudden and stormy conditions. On several trips we had to retreat to sheltered bays just to get out of the weather. On days like this, I try to remind myself that you do have to do the work to get the result. And even though it may be blowing a gale, raining sideways, into your face, and difficult to see, the fish should be fine with it. And it did at least brighten up later on. Now that's more like it, even if I was still struggling to catch anything. The problem I was having on this particular day was that I had a fast sinking line that would go to the bottom, and an intermediate line that was not fast enough and couldn't get down to the midwater. Kev, however, had just the right line for our drift speed, which was presenting his fly at about 15 foot deep over 25 foot depths, and it seemed to be where the fish were sitting, not willing to change depth in either direction, but happy to oblige Kevin with a few bites. As June became July, I had a little more, if slightly random success, on a small red and white clouser pattern fly, with a bit of flash in it. It seemed to work well when the fish were close to the bottom and not really active. We both caught zander in areas of Grafham where we'd not caught fish before. Almost everything we've learnt from the last few seasons fly fishing on Grafham seemed to have shifted. I put it down to the warm May and very windy days in June, which created considerable turbulence and difference in the water temps and water clarity in different areas of Grafham. A few zander had come to my fly, but I really didn't find any consistency of approach. All the fish had gone deep by mid-July, but we still stood a chance of catching them near the shallows when they would move in to feed in the evening and the early morning. And so back to our fine July morning. Heading out with our usual strategies and plans in tatters, we allowed the wind to dictate our fishing and headed for a spot that would allow us to consistently fish at a reasonable depth. I set a drift to take us along a slope at about 25 feet. It was our first drift of the day and a little way off our usual spot. To give us time to unspool our lines, cast a bit and settle into fishing. No sooner had we stood up and made our first casts, I noticed two very large fish on the sonar, just off the bottom, at about 20 feet. One mark like this would normally be a pike, but two together was something else. I called the marks out to Kev and we both slowed our retrieves a little to get down to the target depth as we passed over the fish.
Oh, it's a huge thing.
A few moments later and Kev felt a monster take and the panic was on. As the fish came to the net, I knew it was one we'd seen on the sonar, and that it was as big a zander as either of us have seen before. Being such a big fish, it had totally inhaled the fly, but was only lightly hooked. Keeping the fish in the water as much as possible, the first weight in the net read 18 pounds 6 ounces. So minus the net, we knew this was going to be a serious fish.
Oh, what's that?
18.6 less.
How much?
18.6 less than net. That's going to be my
18.6?
less than net, yeah.
Of course, the boat is rocking and it plays havoc with the scales, so we check the weight over the middle of the boat.
18.10. Yeah, that's the biggest fish I've caught. Right. 18.6, 18.10. I'm not that.
By now, Kev is in a state of shock and disbelief. Weighing in at 18 pounds 10 ounces in the net makes this fish a solid 16 pounds.
Okay. Are you going to put him in the ladle?
Yeah, you ready?
Oh, yeah, you could lift.
I'm
Just
going to
keep
lift
him
the
in the
net
net and
to
then.
the ladle.
Yeah, okay, fair enough.
Right.
It's brute. It's a brute. Get him under the chin because he's going to flap. He's got a big set. Big old jaw.
Neither of us can quite believe just how big this zander is in the flesh. It's an absolute beast. They are ferocious looking creatures at this size. The fish is in fantastic condition with huge tail and clean fins. What a prize.
Beast.
It was Kevin's fish, but we both knew how much this meant. You have to put in the days to get a fish like this, and it really was a well-deserved result.
Go to the left a bit. There we go. Yeah. Wait, after all this time.
Once the adrenaline and shock had worn off, I got back to another day of playing catch-up.
Kev's in again.
We tried a few different areas, ending up back at the North Tower.
Do you want me to net it?
I lost a decent fish near the boat in the morning, and finally managed a second in the last 30 minutes of the session, which came to a red and white clouser pattern.
It comforts me that you weren't even actually fishing.
No, I wasn't fishing.
You caught it.
No.
I just, it must be that fly. I don't know.
I was going to hold it up for the camera, but he decided it was going to usual Zander, but
Oh no, it looks steady. It looks Zander.
Zander and Phil. This is probably a double. It's not as big as the last one by a long shot, but
Kev's final Zander of the day weighed in at 9 pounds. You've got to love these fish when they put their fins up, just for the camera. By now it was getting into August, and we were in that difficult time when fish are generally moving deeper and the bait fish are just starting to shoal up and leave the margins. We decided to spend a bit more time trying for some big perch we'd seen following our flies, particularly near the weed line in some of the bays. So I set out fishing the red and white clouser again.
Whoa!
On our way past the North Tower, we decided to have a quick cast, and my first of the day received a solid take just seconds after it hit the water. A decent battle turned out to be a really nice 11-pound fish. A personal best and a very welcome start to the day.
yeah, towards me a bit. Okay. Well done. Nice start, mate. Well done. Top bombing.
And this was followed by another, a short while later. Not huge, but for once, I was putting Kev under pressure.
Yeah, good. Well done. Well done. There's some catching up to do now.
Jesus Christ, Kevin.
Right.
I haven't got time to talk.
Chris.
Well, it's going to be a tough afternoon for Kevin. I'm going to have some lunch.
And that was just about it for the season. Despite our best efforts and a couple more trips, the water temperatures came up and the fish were off to 35 plus foot. We occasionally found a couple more fish at reliable spots, but this year's fry moved out of the shallows and formed huge baitfish shoals in the 30 to 45 foot range, where they can all hide in the dark. This means game over for another year, and signals the start of the lure fishing season for us. Although with so much food in Grafham, it will be a while before they really turn onto lures again. I look forward to meeting that 16-pound fish again. Especially when it's had a few months to feed, it could easily pass 18 pounds, maybe even bigger. We hope you enjoyed our video. Please do like, comment and subscribe. It helps promote the film on YouTube and means others will see the films you've enjoyed. You can follow me on Instagram at Fly Fishing Photographer and Lure Fishing Photographer. Wishing you all good health. Tight lines till next time.